everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we simply have to talk about Marvel and their recent project announcements at the recent San Diego Comic-Con, which was held on Saturday the 27th of July 2024. So just to warn you now that there could be potential spoilers throughout for all Marvel movies and series, certainly within their phases 4 and 5, which could also include ones for Deadpool and Wolverine, so just beware when going to this overall video. So we will then of course start with the biggest announcement of Marvel's panel, no doubt about it, the huge bombshell news that Robert Downey Jr., who we all know as Iron Man, will be returning to the MCU, but not as Tony Stark, but as iconic supervillain Doctor Doom. The character who we all know is the prime antagonist for the Fantastic Four, but has many times proved to be the villain also for other Marvel characters. Downey Jr. will play the villain in the 5th Avengers movie, which is now titled Avengers Doomsday, which will be set for release sometime in May 2026. This replaces the previous title of the film, which was Avengers The Kang Dynasty, and overall confirms Marvel's choice to pivot away from the character of Kang, who we all know was the villain of the Multiverse saga to begin with. And whilst this was to be expected after actor Jonathan Majors' conviction for involuntary assault earlier this year, I do feel that this could have been just a recasting of the character, but overall I think it's also an admission from Marvel that the character of Kang just wasn't generating the same amount of hype and interest that we had from Thanos from phases 1 to 3. Now the 6th Avengers movie still remains Secret Wars, which of course adapts the massive crossover storyline which was generated back in May 1984, running all the way through to May 1985, and that film is still due for release sometime in 2027. It was also confirmed that the Russo brothers will be returning to direct the Avengers films. They of course were very pivotal in really cementing the hype of the universe at its peak when they came through to direct both Avengers Infinity War and also Avengers Endgame. They had previous experience of course before with directing Captain America the Winter Soldier back in 2014, which is still regarded amongst the true elite entries within the franchise. Now Robert Downey Jr. will appear in both Avengers films, and it's increasingly likely that he'll also appear in some capacity in the upcoming Fantastic Four project, which is due for release in 2025. So what do we think of all of this news? Well, I have to be honest, at this point I'm really not convinced. Now from the outset it feels very much more like stunt casting, a shortcut, a quick fix to try and regenerate hype for the MCU. The studios themselves are all too well aware that the universe has been struggling in its multiverse saga, both creatively and commercially. This was hinted at even more so in Deadpool and Wolverine, which acknowledged this multiple times. Although it was done in jest, it was clearly telling the truth as to where the franchise is currently standing. So to try and address this, instead of being creative with new ideas or new stories and characters, they've just decided to bring back the most popular actor within the franchise to really generate some hype. And to be fair, on that basis, Robert Downey Jr. returning will definitely generate some hype. Certainly from the social media perspective, when this news was announced, it's been trending like crazy, with lots of reactions and theories and speculation as to how exactly his return will pan out within this stage of the franchise. So at the very least, yes, there will be a lot of fans and pundits and commentators who will all flock to see the 5th Avengers film, especially out of curiosity to see how exactly Robert Downey Jr. will portray this role. So the interest will be there, yes. And as great and charismatic as an actor he is, I also question as to whether Downey Jr. can truly be that imposing and intimidating villain's presence that is absolutely required for a character like Doctor Doom, who is without question one of the most iconic comic book villains of all time. And I'm really not sure that Robert Downey Jr. has that type of presence. He always has played much more of a charismatic, very likeable type of personality, not somebody that you would truly feel threatened or intimidated by. The other issue here is that when we see him for the first time on screen as Doctor Doom, people will instantly see Tony Stark. And that's something that will just be inescapable due to the huge impact that Downey Jr. has made with this character ever since his first appearance way back in 2008. Now that may even cause some confusion amongst the more general casual MC fans, so they'll have to do a lot of work here to make sure that there's enough development and setup here to convince all audiences that when he appears on screen that we are actually watching Doctor Doom and not Tony Stark. And to be fair, at this stage, we don't know how exactly they'll create this character. We all know that Doom himself wears for the most part an armoured mask, which was a result of him being physically scarred following self-experimentation. Now yes, when they come to create the character, he'll wear the mask, likely using motion capture or CGI, but how long will he be wearing the mask for? Will he appear much more in human form, and will we see this much more in flashbacks, or will we see an origin story as to how exactly the character was created? And again, as I've stated with previous coverage, I still feel that Doctor Doom should be appearing first fully in Fantastic Four before we see him later on down the line in any Avengers installments. There is also a lot of theories that this will be a variant of Tony Stark, and I really hope that's not the case, because I really think that's just a very weak interpretation, and once more it highlights the flaws of the whole multiverse storytelling device. How exactly can we invest in a certain character when we know that whatever happens to them, the story can just hop along to another universe or another parallel Earth and just use a variant of the character? This is something that of course we saw within Wolverine. Despite the fact that it was Hugh Jackman returning in the role, it wasn't the same version that we saw within the previous Fox movies. And the multiverse saga just eliminates any real sense of stakes or danger. In many ways, it's an easy cheat for the writers to go in certain directions very quickly without having to provide much exposition or explanation. And I think this is the biggest problem with the MCU at this stage, where we can clearly see that there is no clear direction as to where they are heading. They're very much doing things on the fly, so if one element doesn't work, such as Kang, then they can quickly change course and go in another direction. Now, whilst they may feel this gives them much more maneuverability, again, it will cause a lot of confusion for the fans going forward, and it will very much leave them less convinced as to where the universe is heading. And I just think in terms of the role, there are so many other great characters that could have been chosen to bring something fresh and different to this overall announcement. And I'm really just not sure that Robert Downey Jr. is really a choice that signifies a lot of creative invention within this universe as to where they want to be within phase 5 and going ahead even further for phases 6 and 7, where we will eventually see the introduction of the X-Men within the universe. So at this stage, I'm not sure. I really hope I'm proven wrong. Downey Jr. is a great actor and he'll put forward a great performance, but I just think the association with Tony Stark is so huge that I'm not sure it will be enough for us to be able to certainly separate that version of the character and to be able to accept this new role as Doctor Doom, but we will wait and see what happens when we first bring him to the screen. Now, whilst that news dominated Marvel's panel, we did get other announcements and reveals for other projects. Fantastic Four, which comes out later in 2025, had more reveals. In terms of the title, it's now called Fantastic Four First Steps, which I'm not really convinced by. Maybe that's a hint at where the story is starting. We all know that this will be a period piece set within the 1960s, which will certainly free them of any constraints in having to connect as to what's going on currently. And in terms of the footage, if you go online, you will see that there was certainly, if not a trailer, then a showcase reel where we show the group of characters, Reed Richards, Ben Grimm, Sue Storm and Johnny Storm, all preparing for their space mission to other planets. As we know, this is how they attracted their cosmic radiation powers. And from what we could see, the aesthetic of this project has that very bright retro feel to it. Very positive vibes and tone from what we can see so far. Very much that futuristic feel, even though it's still in the 1960s. And I'm sure eventually that Marvel will release this footage online. Right at the end of this footage, we had a brief glimpse of Galactus, not in his full form, but we see these large eyes overlooking the city. And I still feel that Galactus shouldn't be used in this project. As I said previously, it should be Doctor Doom first, and we should be building up Galactus later on to be the next big villain, maybe within phases 7 or 8. Personally, I still would have preferred Galactus appearing for the first time in a solo Silver Surfer movie, but as we all know, that will be played within a female version of the character, something I still don't agree with either. We then had the Thunderbolts panel, which is also a project coming out in 2025. This will be much more of the misfits, if you like, characters within the universe, featuring the likes of Yelena Belova and Red Guardian from the Black Widow film, and also we will see Bucky Barnes returning, who we all know from the Captain America movies. And many have likened this to the MCU version of the Suicide Squad. I'm still not sure why this team exactly was chosen for a big project within the movies. Now, a trailer for the film was shown within the event, and I'm sure it won't be too long before it's released online. And I do feel that Marvel will have to do some major marketing and hype to see if this project can overall be successful. But we'll know once more once we see the first trailer whenever it's released. We also had a panel for Captain America Brave New World, and the cast panel appeared where actor Giancarlo Esposito announced that he would be playing the character known as Sidewinder, I believe, one of the main antagonists throughout the film. And of course we had Harrison Ford appearing, as we all know he will be playing President Thunderbolt Ross. The main feature of this character is that we will see him transforming into the red version of the Incredible Hulk, which is a version generated from the comics, of course. Again, doubts over this film, the fact that it will be a Captain America movie without the iconic and definitive version of Steve Rogers. The trailer, which dropped over a month ago, I thought overall was fine, having those serious vibes that we saw within Winter Soldier. But again, I don't think this will be the massive hit that Marvel was hoping it to be, but we'll wait and see what happens when the film comes around in February 2025. Another feature of the project is that it was revealed that the substance known as adamantium will be introduced. If you know your comic book lore, you will know that adamantium is the indestructible metal surface within the Marvel universe. It's what comprises of Wolverine's endoskeleton with his iconic claws as well. It was confirmed, it seems, that the substance within the MCU will be built by the Celestials, and there will be eventually some final explanation as to the huge Tiamat statue that is sticking out outside the Earth in what we saw in the climactic act of Eternals. For so long, Marvel hasn't managed to explain why nobody has noticed that, but it seems we will finally get that explanation within this movie itself. So a lot of elements to look forward to, whether we are fully convinced or not. So that's it really in terms of my overall breakdown of the recent announcements within the Comic-Con panel for Marvel. Let me know what you think in the comments below. We do have note, of course, there will be shortly be the D23 presentation, which I'm sure will finally release some HD footage of the projects that were shown this time round. And again, I'll provide coverage of that event also. But let me know in the comments what you think about this news, and also if you have any other movies or television projects or any other issues within the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd also like to see me cover. Let me know in the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please consider hitting like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.